This episode of Blacktop Banter is brought to you by Crafco, the world's leading manufacturer of packaged pavement preservation materials and equipment for the asphalt industry. Learn more at crafco.com. My guest today is Brandon Noel, and we've been fortunate enough to spend some time together over this last year, off and on, in pretty much a couple places that isn't a huge party place and one place that is a massive party place. And I think we held ourselves pretty well, to be honest with you. We were very professional, and especially in like the major city. We were in Las Vegas for Con Expo, and I think we did pretty well. We were pretty responsible. So why not, right? With that sense of responsibility that we have him on the show, and we can kind of talk about some of that stuff. So I did let the cat out of the bag a little early. My guest is Brandon Noel. Brandon is the editor for Asphalt, Contractor, and Pavement, Maintenance, and Reconstruction magazine. Both of which we've had great experiences with here on Blacktop Banter, and it's very exciting to see Brandon kind of getting his feet wet, well, really wet and really warm now. He's been on some Blacktop jobs. So he's a fantastic cigar aficionado, I have come to find out myself, and he has a beautiful head of hair, which I am in no way jealous of at all. There it is. And I'm going to let him give himself an intro a little bit here. And Brandon, you can go over your titles again and let us know kind of what that is. What do you do here? What's your introduction?
Well, thank you, Marvin. I appreciate you having me on the show and giving me that intro there. Yes, and helping me try to relive a few of the moments in Vegas that we saw each other. It was a wild whirlwind of a week, but I do know that we smoked some cigars and had a few drinks, and it was a good time. But as the editor for the two magazines, they're trade magazines, right? You know, the Asphalt Contractor really focuses on like the road building and production side of asphalt. It's like for, you know, the types of jobs that do large scale, you know, and Pavement, Maintenance, and Reconstruction magazine is focused for your seal coaters, stripers, sweepers, pavement repair jobs, parking lots, your mid to large, small business owners and operators. And, you know, when I first started in the job, it was very difficult. I might not have 8 to 10 months ago been able to explain so quickly and easily how the two magazines are different. In fact, I spent many days going like, oh, I've got this idea for an article, and my predecessor and the person who trained me, Jessica Lombardo, who I would not be here today without her, because she trained me, and she had done this job for like a decade, and helped me understand whenever I had questions. So, you know, I'd be like, well, I want to write this article. I could go in here. She's like, no, that's pavement maintenance. I'm like, oh, okay. So what if I write this? No, that's Asphalt Contractor. And I had a lot of trouble like understanding what those two differences were. But yeah, it's been a really interesting experience learning how these two kind of like silos of the industry are interrelated, but how very different the two types of asphalt work is.
Yeah. And you know, when you speak about Jessica, same thing. I don't think I would be here without Jessica, right, at that point. So
we all owe
she's
her
very humble,
a lot.
though. I know she's super humble. She won't take all that credit for it, but yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, right? It's easy to say the asphalt industry and it just be a blanket statement that covers this huge shell, but in each one, if you pull that cover back, there's all these pillars and silos in there, and even when it comes to pavement maintenance, you can break that down into 4 as well.
Absolutely,
right,
yeah.
There, so it gets to be. It sounds complicated, but it's really not, right? There's all these streams of processes that make up the maintenance side of the industry, and also in the asphalt large scale contractor side of the industry as well. And it's very cool that we're able to see that through the magazines, and that there are outlets for us in this trade. You know, it's a unique.
There's
thing.
like, I'm still learning, like, and I haven't even been like, I still haven't hit everything on my checklist. You know, like I've been on site now for some maintenance, like some patching and some reconstruction sort of things. I've been to a couple mill and fill type jobs, parking lots, but also some local streets. But like I haven't got to do like a day ride on a sweeper yet, and that's on my list, my checklist of things to do. I haven't got to drive like Captain Striper does, one of those really tricked out LED pimped, sort of striping motorcycles, as I like to call them. But those are on my checklist. Like, I've got to do that. And hopefully before the summer is over, I'll get to hit all of the different things, because that really goes a long way for me feeling confident, being able to bring content to the audience that not only do I know it, not only do I like actually have experience, like, and very limited experience, but actually having been there to see what it's like and what the job entails, but then also on another side, like, earning people's respect. And that was another big part of it for me, is that, like, I think that it goes a long way for me when I see people like engaging with something that matters in my life and what I do for a living. And so I wanted to do the same to our audience, to contractors all across the country, to be like, hey, this guy, he wants to get his hands dirty. He wants to really learn it and respects the job for what it is. So when they see an article by me, or they might see me at an expo or something, I've at least done some sort of work on the front end to show that, like, hey, I want to come at least halfway. Maybe we can meet in the middle somewhere and make some cool stuff together.
Well, what I think it does, and you can correct me on this if I'm wrong in what you've experienced, but what I think that does is allow you to get in on conversations and be able to ask questions that aren't surface level, right? And it allows these conversations to be a little more in depth. And that goes a long way, because, as you said, it shows interest, and it also shows, hey, he kind of has a knack for understanding what we're doing here somewhat. And to me, those are the greatest conversations, because we'll get in those scenarios where you and I were at different expos, and there'll be a group of guys and contractors that are having a conversation, and I'm like a bookworm. I'm like a sponge in there. I'm like, wait, tell me
Give
this.
me everything.
Wait, tell me that. Yeah. And it doesn't really matter if if you're just getting into the industry or you've been in the industry for a while. You can always be a sponge, and people tend to want to talk about what they do. Just so everybody knows, people tend to want to talk about what they do, and they don't mind if you're asking questions and they got answers. And when we first met and kind of had our brief introduction and whatnot to each other and whatnot, you mentioned that your background, right, was from the steel industry. Can you give us a little bit of insight in that?
I wondered if this would come up at all, because every time I meet people and we're talking about, hey, how'd you come into this? It comes up every time, right?
Yep.
Because I don't come from a traditional line of education or a traditional line of profession to be where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
For the it's June 22nd as of today. We're recording. In 5 days, I will hit my 1 year mark with ACBM and being the editor for the magazines. Prior to that, I was a steel worker here in Northeast Ohio for the previous 14 years. I started there when I was 22 years old. I had just had a daughter. I was married, and it was like the 2008. If you were working during that time, that was a terrible economic year. It was like a little, what do they call those? Not an implosion, but a recession. That's the word I'm looking for. Economic implosion, recession. And I just took a job, newly married, had a baby on the way, and I was actually selling cars before that. I was a car salesman. A 21-year-old car salesman is the worst thing you can be. Because no one's buying a $30,000 car from a 21-year-old. If you do, you're an idiot. So, so I was.
This car's got a great reputation of you lasting a long time. Like, kid, right? How do you know?
Get out of here! You don't know what you're talking about. It was such a nightmare, Marvin, being a car salesman at 21, that I still have stress dreams about it. Like, every now and then, I will have a stress dream that I am back out on the lot somehow, walking around and trying to sell a car. I might be better at it now at 37, but at 21, I was absolutely horrendous. I survived that for like a year, and then I my brother-in-law worked at this steel factory, and they had benefits. It had a steady pay, but it was only $10 an hour. But man, I jumped at it. And my wife went through nursing school. She became a nurse, and it's like life just barreled on, right? I had been in school at Kent State University, but I dropped out. I made 2 other attempts to finish my degree at Kent State, and I flunked out both times because being a dad and working full time at the factory, I was going to night classes. And listen, those stories about single mamas and single daddies that like do their job, take care of their kids, and they go and finish their degrees, I bowed down at their feet, man, because I tried to do it and I had a spouse like helping me, and I could not hack it. Like I could not hack juggling all that stuff. So I stayed at the factory all those years, decade and a half, and worked my way up into every position of production, eventually being a machinist in the machine shop there, and even working in the shipping departments and whatnot. But that it hit a dead end for me, man. My kids are getting older. My oldest is 15, and it was like there were some speed bumps. I won't get all the details there, but I was like, man, there's got to be something else for me. And the pieces aren't there though, right? If you're listening to this right now and you haven't met me, you're like, okay, so Steel Factory to writer. But I had gone to school to be an English teacher, and my dream was to be a writer. And in the 14 years that I had worked at the factory, I had 2 books published, and I was running a writers group in our local area. And during the pandemic, all that stuff we would do to get the people together, I was teaching classes, like free classes and stuff, and doing open mic nights and stuff for writers. It imploded during the pandemic. And my friend, I told you off mic that I had helped produce a podcast with, he owned a cigar company. I had done like PR writing for him because he's like, you're a writer. I'm like, well, I'm not that. He's like, you're a writer. Might write this press release. I'm like, I'm not that kind of writer, Tony. His name is Tony. And I'm like, he's like, I don't care. I'll pay you, $100 to write this press release. I'm like, sweet, $100 is $100.
Yeah. Okay.
I did
Actually,
that for 12...
I am a press release writer.
I know everything about writing a press release. But it's like I was Googling YouTubes about like how to write a press release. But he didn't care, man. Like he didn't have a person to do marketing stuff. And over 12 years, I did product writing for him. I traveled with him to the Dominican Republic. Wow. I wrote articles for him in cigar magazines. And I got that experience. I was just doing it on the side for a friend, including making his TV commercials. Like my first digital camera was like 720p. And he's like, he saw me with it one day. He's like, you shoot video? And I'm like, sort of. And he's like, you want to shoot the TV commercial for the shop? And I'm like, okay. And
$100, $100.
It was $300 in fact to shoot video. So like I 12 years of that relationship and honing that kind of writing. I published these other books. I'm doing all these other things. When the pandemic happened, a lot of that stuff went away. So a friend of mine who was a writer said, we should publish a magazine. And I was like, what kind of magazine? He's like, the stuff we like, short stories, poetry, art, photography. And I'm like, cool. And I actually had a friend who had launched a magazine, a culture magazine. And I went to him and was like, dude, how do I do this? And so he showed us and gave us a lot of instruction. We learned a lot from him. And then we did that for 2 years, starting in 2020. We started that. And that kind of all coalesced with my end of working at the factory, where I was like, I've hit the ceiling here.
Yep.
The future that I thought I might build here, it's not going to be here.
Yep.
I want to do something else. So I took all this like 12 years of side experience that I had done, making TV commercials, writing press releases, writing product launches,
books,
making
wrote a couple books.
Commercials. And I had 2 books published, and I I was publishing. I was the editor for this magazine that we actually filed for a 501c3. We were a nonprofit. We were raising money, taking money and donating it to like local art charities and stuff. And I just put that all on a resume, man. And I just started blasting it out there, and I was shooting my shot, man. I mean, everything in the news was everyone's hiring. There's jobs to be had, and I was like, this is the opportunity for me to see if I can make a change in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And ACBM was the first place to reach out to me. And the first thing that the person who interviewed me said when the Zoom screen popped up was, "Hi, Brandon. Why don't you explain to me this very interesting resume?" But to their credit, and I'll shout her out, Marina Mayer, who is our content director and my boss, really. Like, she's the person I kind of answer to most immediately.
Mm-hmm.
She took a chance on me and I think primarily, she pointed out, this is a blue collar industry that pavement maintenance, reconstruction, blacktop work, road building, this is a blue collar industry. And there's not a lot of people in my job that have the interesting mix of having worked for so long in a blue collar job, but also could step in and do a B2B media, being the editor for a magazine. And I kind of just fell into this really lucky kind of Goldilocks zone, and they took a risk on me. And I've been really wanting to prove ever since day one, not only could I do this job, but that risk, that chance they took on me was worth it.
Yeah.
That it was the right one. And so part of my ambition and my like doing everything I can has been to show that like you can take a non-traditional path and you can actually choose a non-traditional candidate for a job. And it's the right one. Like sometimes it's the right one. And whenever and it has worked. Marina's bet on me works because every time I step onto the job site, I'm like, these are my guys. Like I feel so at home, even though I'm still learning the asphalt industry. I feel so at home around the guys because I'm like, these are the guys I've worked with for 15 years. Like these are the people that I miss. Like I work at home, and going from working with my hands every day to going behind a desk, that's been a really hard transition. So every chance I get to go out there, I take it. So that's my story of how I got here, Marvin. It's a wild ride, but
Dude,
I'm still surfing it, man.
Dude, isn't it? It's crazy to think about the eclectic mix of your background and how that is perfectly qualified for the position that they're searching for. It just goes to show, like, yes, and nothing to knock on higher formal education. Chris just graduated, by the way.
Right. No, I go to college.
But,
my daughter, I'm telling her, you got to go to college.
Yeah. But there are life experiences that make people uniquely suited to be the right candidate for certain positions and certain tracks in life. So it's epic.
Let me jump in and also say, I just graduated college. I'm in my mid-30s.
Yep.
I went back to school twice to finish this degree and finally was able to do it. So hearing you speak about before, how hard it is, it's true,
Yeah.
It really
it's hard.
is. So
yeah.
Life happens,
Chris,
man.
it's hard. And what you're saying about like the life experience and being uniquely suited, I actually got to recently go back to my old high school. The English department invited me to come back and speak to Lake High School in Uniontown, Ohio. I went back there before the end of the school year, and I told the kids my story too. And I said, I'm not telling, and I could see the worried look on all the teachers' faces.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
is this guy,
it's
is this guy
coming.
telling the kids
them
not to go to
school?
college? And I said, so at one point I could feel their worriedness, and I was like, I'm not suggesting don't go to college. Like, make your applications and whatever. I said, but what you need to know from my story is say yes to things.
Yeah.
Say yes to weird things that you're not qualified to do, like make a TV commercial for your friend, or write a press release, for somebody's company that or start a magazine during a pandemic. Like, just saying yes to weird opportunities that present themselves to you is the message I wanted to tell those kids that day, because you don't know what you're going to learn from those opportunities. And I joke with Jessica and the ACBM team every day that going out on these job sites, what I'm going to eventually do is just start my own asphalt company. I'm gonna learn all this stuff, and then I'm just gonna start my own company. I'll take all this knowledge.
Yeah.
Yep. I like doing the editing stuff. That was cool. White collar work was fun for a little while, but I gotta get back out there, man. I gotta go back out.
Yeah.
Going back
now
to
that I know how to
blue
do it, I'm just gonna go do this now. Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I literally told a guy, I don't mean, I apologize for cutting you off.
No,
but
you're good.
I said to the guys at All Out that if I had known, like I've been aware about this work when I worked at the factory, I think I would have left the factory to join a crew. If I had known what I know now, I think I would have left and done this instead.
Yeah, people ask us that sometimes, they're like, because it's definitely not an industry or a job that's easy on the home life. And it's definitely not one, like, if you enjoy a lot of free time, good luck. But it gets in your bones, man. It gets in your blood where, the only way I can kind of say it, especially since we have a community now, right, that we can talk to each other about what we do. There's a camaraderie there. I don't know. And there's a pride there of just like, this is what we do. And it's like, there's never been a question of that really. Like, at least
make
for
a
me,
decent living. You can make a decent living, doing the work.
Yeah. But it's just never been like, well, what else am I going to do? Because this is what we do.
This is
right?
what you do. This is what it is.
Well, I want to lead into, speaking of that, right, our community and why people are interested in the content we make here at Blacktop Banter, but also that you make at the magazines. They're interested because it's what they do, right? Like a lot of times we'll have concepts that we bring up for content we want to create, and Chris will be like, "Who the hell wants to watch that?" I'm like, "Me." I want to watch that.
Our guys want to watch that.
Our guys want to watch that. I want to watch that. I'm like, this is what I do. It's what I'm interested in. I want to watch it. And he's starting to get that, right? Of, the general public might not like this piece, or it be super attractive, but our industry will love it. And then there's other pieces where we make it, where the general public loves it because it's interesting, right? Just in general, blacktop work and aspects is interesting, but it's not so appealing to the guys that see it every day. Right. So you have this flip side of this coin of, this is this is this. So let's lead into the magazines with that a little bit. You kind of elaborated on it a little bit about what Asphalt Contractor covers and what Pavement Maintenance and Reconstruction covers. But I'll ask you once again to kind of give, they're two different identities for a reason. You can start with Asphalt Contractor if you would.
Yeah. I mean, Asphalt Contractor, when I came into the role, it was explained to me that this is kind of the larger scale, doing interstate work, like highways, and also like the production side of asphalt, the plants, and mixed design and stuff like that. It kind of operates on that level, including what I have tried to draw in as one of my bigger focuses is the infrastructure stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that whereas with Pavement Reconstruction magazine, I've really tried to bring, and I've not always been successful at this. Like, this is a thing I'm still trying to learn and figure out.
Mm-hmm.
Bring the ground level people perspective to the articles, because B2B writing, as I've come to learn, can kind of be very surface level in some regards. Like the articles sometimes can be like very matter of fact, and not have a whole lot of depth. And I have been trying to meet the requirements that B2B media has. Like, you have to do X, Y, and Z. But also, can I bring some depth to it? Like, can I bring any more perspective? Can I bring the ground level guy perspective into it? Can we marry those two? I have not successfully done that yet. Like, I don't really feel like I have achieved what I'm trying to do with either of the magazines in that regard, because I've been learning two industries at one time, B2B media writing and being an editor, and the asphalt industry. And I think as my experience and comfortability with those two things grows, I'm going to get closer to melding my ideas together in that way, because I think the articles should be entertaining. Like,
Correct.
Maybe not comedic, but I think that they should be mentally engaging beyond specs and stats and things, which are good. We need to have that information. But
Right.
I also want people to, like, my dream is that people would see Asphalt Contractor show up, and if they had to choose what they take to the shitter, that they're going to take Asphalt Contractor to the shitter.
I got
and that maybe they won't even use their phone. Maybe they'll actually, like, read the article instead of being on their phone.
And sometimes maybe they'll forget they're on there for a while, right?
Maybe for a little bit. I mean, is that too much to ask as an editor that your magazine be the one the guy takes to the shitter?
No, I don't think so. I don't know how many highlight points above that tier there are, right? Of what you want people to do with your magazine. And
listen,
if there
the
are
first magazines I ever read were Better Homes and Garden and Martha Stewart's Living, because those were what my mom read. My dad didn't read any magazines, and they were just there. Like, I learned about gardening from Martha Stewart way back in the day just because it was there, man. So what can we achieve if our magazines are just there? And people are like, oh, that was interesting. I didn't know about that.
well, to flip the coin with Pavement Maintenance and Reconstruction magazine, it tends to go the other way, where there's great stories and very interesting pieces written, not only on the professional writer side, but with contractors as contributors as well, right? Writing their experiences in. So can you elaborate on that magazine a little bit for us?
Yeah, I have been trying. I told Marina, my boss, that my eventual goal for Pavement Maintenance is that I only write one article in that magazine every issue, because I want it to be more of a mosaic of voices and experts and experienced, knowledgeable people contributing it. I think that, again, like, that's a goal I'm working towards. I haven't gotten there yet because it takes a lot people are working and they're busy, and to try to communicate with everybody. But eventually that's what I would prefer to see that magazine really become, where when people pick up Pavement Maintenance, they're seeing their job, like, it really reflected back at them. The way, the perspectives, but also the voices, not just being Brandon, even though I'm trying my best to really learn it, but I'll just be one voice amongst, like, a group of experts and different people contributing to the magazine, including that I would love to have an open forum where contractors can just pitch me ideas for their stories that I've never written a story before. And yet, like, maybe I could work with them and be like, I mean, I really see I'm an editor, right? I'm not, my job isn't just a writer. I would really like to establish a rapport enough with the industry where guys are like, man, I have an interesting story to tell. I don't know how to tell it. And I'll be like, let me help you tell it.
Yeah.
You'll get your name in the magazine and this will be your article, but I'll help you tell the story that you're wanting to tell. Those are goals I have. Like, I'm working towards those things. When you first come into a new position like this, you can't make all those changes at once because, first of all, you don't even know what you're doing. It's like I played jazz piano in high school, and I didn't know how to play jazz. I was classically trained, and my jazz instructor was like, well, this is perfect. He's like, because you can't really learn how to play jazz until you know the foundational understandings of music, then you have to forget it. And this is kind of the same way. It's like I had to really learn the foundational understanding of this job, what its requirements are and what it needs in order to be able to, like, okay, now that I get that, now I'm going to flip it up and do it different and change it around.
Man, that's a sweet undertaking, to be honest with you, right? Because the way that I think about it, right, these guys are fantastic at telling their stories when we're at these events and whatnot. They got me. I'm hooked. And then we get done and you get the punchline or you get the victory story out at the end of it, right? Where they did this massive job and had all these trials along the way and made it. And I'm like, yes. Like, if they tell it for 20 minutes, I'm listening the whole way through. If I could read that in pieces, right? Or if a lot of the basis of what I speak about why Blacktop Banter exists is because I was worried some of these guys weren't going to be around to tell these stories later on. So I wanted
preserving
yes.
that history. Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to remember every detail. And it sure would be a lot better if they could just tell it themselves, right? The way that they told it that had me hooked to begin with. And to me, that's a very important thing because we're in an industry where if nobody does that, it may never exist, right? And it just gets renewed and renewed. And we only have these stories for a moment and then they're gone. And then they get replaced with another story, which is great. But for some people,
you don't want to lose.
I don't want to lose that stuff as well. And speaking of that, a lot of these stories come up at expos, right, where we get interactions with some of these guys and some of these things. Can you talk about your expo and conference experiences over the past year. And you don't necessarily have to point out singular ones, but maybe the importance of it and what you've learned about why they're so important I think for me, I think they are essential for contractors to be happy and have a full experience in the asphalt industry of their careers, to attend these events, get educated with other contractors and experience things. So tell us a little bit about your experience being on the flip side of the contractor.
So I've been to, I would say, 4 main kind of gathering events, including the Ignite Construction Summit, which was where I met you, like in person for the first time. We're doing that again in December. The Ignite Construction Summit, the first weekend in December, going to Clearwater, Florida. That's an awesome thing because that's like business owner focused. There wasn't any like paving and so, like that was all adjacent, but it was like real business minded, and that was a really great first experience for me. And then I went to the Napa conference. I went to MPE, and then I went to ConExpo, obviously. And then obviously looking forward to PaveX next year.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing that I could take away from all of those, if I boiled all of that travel and meeting people down to kind of like one specific memory, it would be who's not the contractor's best friend. I'm thinking of Nick Howell.
Yeah.
Okay. I went to a class that he taught, and it was a basics about being able, I think it was called the Asphalt Doctor, or the name of the class was, essentially he was showing pictures of failed asphalt mat surfaces in different situations and helping you diagnose just by looking at it what had failed here. Was it base failure? Was it sub base? Was this drainage problem that wasn't going the right way? And I was going for my own edification, right? I'm going to learn. I want to learn this information myself and be able to add it to my knowledge. And it was like a 101 level class. Like it even said it in the description. This was like the basics. And it was standing room only. Standing room only. I got there right as it started, and I had to stand in the corner in the back for the whole class. And it was in one of the larger teaching rooms. So what does that mean? Why am I even telling this story? Because it shocked me, because I'm thinking, here I am, I'm Mr. Novice. I'm trying to write to this industry. I'm trying to connect with people in this industry. I'm going to go to the 101 classes, try to learn some of these basics. And I'm thinking, that's not where these guys are going, though, right? But it was a packed room, and they were engaging with Nick. I talked to him afterwards, and he was like sweating. He was like, I was so nervous. He was surprised how many people were there. And I told him, I said, you did a great job. And I still remember the things I learned in that class. I think about it when I'm in the grocery store parking lot and I see gator skin cracking like that. And I'm like, I know what caused that. And so that stuff stayed with me. And I think that more than that, it's like there are people doing the work that these are professionals, but they need this knowledge obviously just as much as I do. It was a really eye-opening thing. And I think that that's one of the best benefits about these conferences and stuff, is that maybe that one's not for you, but I couldn't go to every class I wanted to go to.
No, there's no way.
And there's no way you can go to all of them. And I think that I'm excited about Ignite this year. I'm getting to do a panel with Marco Mena. Him and I are leading a panel this year. But also I'm looking forward to next year's education at PaveX and stuff, because I'm going to get a free pass, man. Like obviously as the editor of the magazines and it being our show, like I'm going to get to go and to as many of the shops as I can and get so much, like you said, that sponge, man. Like I'm going to be walking around like the human sponge in San Antonio trying to learn all that stuff. And I think obviously the camaraderie, going out for beers afterwards, going out to eat, that stuff is awesome. And I absolutely think that is essential too, like building those relationships. I wouldn't have got to do any of this travel without that.
Right.
But the education stuff is like, that's what you're going to take home with you to better your business. That's what you're going to take home with you to be a better professional. That stuff, man, if I did own a company, like I would absolutely be like, I need to learn from why make my own mistakes, right?
Right.
Go out and learn and get that information.
Yeah. I kind of want you're hinting towards going out and learning and getting that information. And I want to get to that real soon because you've had some experiences in the field here as of late with some great friends of ours. But first, we're going to jump to some commercials real quick. And the people that are in these spots are the people that allow Blacktop Banter to happen. So be sure to listen, take some notes, do whatever you need to do. Find them, frequent them, please. We appreciate them very much. Let's get a word from them. Now that spring is here, it won't be long before we're back out in the field. And a key part of being successful this year is making sure we have the products we know and trust to get the job done right each and every time. That's why we use Crafco for all of our crack and joint sealant needs. Crafco products are safe, easy to use, and consistent in their quality and performance, so we spend less time troubleshooting and more time building jobs. Plus, Crafco's industry-leading service and support team means they're ready to assist with any questions we do have along the way. So, if you're ready to ditch the hassle and the headaches this year, visit Crafco.com and give their products a try. I know you'll be glad you did. That's CRAFCO.com. Dynapac continues to make an impact in the asphalt industry, literally. Recently unveiling their electric line of rollers and plate compactors, they lead the way in innovation when it comes to compaction, including their seismic technology, which creates a better, smoother, compacted surface. We're happy to have Dynapac as a supporter of the Blacktop Banter community and encourage you to interact with them on social media. For their full product lineup, visit Dynapac.com. Dynapac, your partner on the road ahead. From their iconic hot boxes to their infrared machines, and now the KM Blacktop Banter Edition seal coating unit, KM International has established itself as one of the toughest and longest lasting equipment manufacturers in the asphalt world. KM is comprised of an experienced team that brings you all the resources you would hope to see from an asphalt equipment manufacturer. Check out KM International on all forms of social media and be sure to see all they have to offer at kminternational.com.
Asphalt contractors, are you guys tired of using 10 different programs to create a nice professional looking report for your customer? Are you tired of having to drive back and forth to your job sites to capture photo updates and get measurements and quantities for change orders, or even having to mark your jobs out beforehand? Are you also tired of carrying too much stuff whenever you're on site scoping jobs, like a wheel, a pen, paper, and clipboard, and a spray paint can? We were too, so we developed Spot on Site, an all-in-one mobile app that allows you to measure and mark instantly from the palm of your hand, capture photos and videos that are all time-stamped and dated, and generate instant reports that you can send to your customers and your team members for a seamless collaboration. This is going to no doubt help you win more work, reduce inefficiencies, and stand out from the competition. Check us out for your free 14-day trial, SpotOnSiteApp.com.
Before we broke into the commercials, we were talking about experiences and being around people and whatnot at our conferences. Those relationships that are being developed there have led to you being able to take some experiences recently in the field. You mentioned being up with Royal Pavement and being out with my friend Jake at Buck Brothers in Toledo and our friend Marco and at All Out. What's that been like, man? Being out there and being on a paver. I seen you on a paver at one point with Jake and his brother Zach, and then you've been in the field. Let me
drive, man. They let me actually drive the
paver.
They had correct me if I say this wrong, right? But I was driving a Weiler.
You were,
right? That's how you okay. And I've driven. I shouldn't say I've driven. That's the only one I got to drive. Like I actually had the chain and the arm out there lining up on the seam, and so I thought that was brave because like that's your livelihood and you are letting me drive it. So yeah, shout out to Jacob Buck who was very brave in letting me do that. But he also let me do some seam matching. His brother Zach was teaching me how to do that, and but the first person to teach me anything on a paver was a guy named Hector who works for Royal Pavement Solutions, and he was teaching me how to you need to use the auger and fill up now the extension, fill up the side there and be able. That was felt a lot easier. But then I've come to learn that when you're on the open side, that can be trickier when you're on the open side.
It is
versus running the screw side and matching. So it's like I've already learned. I couldn't have talked like that just now to you and said those terms and said those things a month ago, because I've learned in such a condensed amount of time so quickly with hands-on experience. And I really appreciate those guys letting me do it because they're working. They are doing a job.
Yes.
And I am like a fly in the ointment. I'm like that episode of Breaking Bad where there's the fly in the meth lab and they are spending all the time, because that's me. I have a million questions. I don't know what I'm doing. I usually have a camera person there with me if I can manage it. And it's like we're interlopers, man, like trying to get that done. And so when I'm allowed to come on site and do that, I so appreciate it. And we have a plan to turn this into its own series. So the first episode at the time of this recording, yesterday, the first full episode of this new series came out on YouTube, and it's on our website. It's on forconstructionpros.com, and it's also on YouTube at the For Construction Pros YouTube page. It's called No Edge Lines, and that is going to be the name of my series going forward, which it started off as like just being job site visits, but my vision for it is like a lot bigger. And really what we did in Philadelphia with All Out Parking Lots and Marco Mena, that was kind of getting much closer to what my ultimate vision for the show could be, which is like marrying Mike Rowe's Dirty Jobs, to Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown.
Dang.
You know, so like I want to take the job site stuff that like Mike Rowe would do, like being out there, getting my hands dirty and showing it, but then doing some like travel log kind of stuff in the city wherever I'm at. And Marco really helped us bring that to life because he helped us sightsee around Philly. We like went down to the open air Italian market where like Rocky like does the run through, you know. We went to the steps, and we visited some cool bars and things. And we shot like travelogue stuff there, very guerrilla style, but we did it. And we're going to, so that episode, which won't come out until about August, will be really, you'll see what my vision for this series will really be. And we hope to continue to expand it and just get more of these experiences showing like what the work is, but also like the community that the work is being done in and how like the two things impact each other. They're related, while also getting the story of the contract. You know, I can't wait to share All Out story with everybody.
Right.
It's a really awesome story and their growth and as a business, but also as friends who grew up in Philly and now have built their business in Philly and now are doing jobs for the Wells Fargo Center, the Philadelphia sports complex, you know, in a city that they grew up in. So that's an awesome story. And I hope to see No Edge Lines as a series really explode and grow, because the more it does, like the more kind of those things I'll have the liberty and the freedom to do, where I get to learn that awesome stuff and do awesome things, but also like bring some real entertainment content alongside of the job site stuff too. So getting kind of a 2-for-1.
Yeah, which is fantastic, right? Like that's, you know, we keep going back to it, but that's really what's made it up. That's what makes the industry up, is that. What do you love most about the contractors in the industry that you've had a chance to get to know and work with?
I love that I can ask like the most asinine, I know it is, before I say it, I'm going to ask an asinine question. I'm going to ask a really dumbass question. And after they laugh and they pat me on the shoulder, they will take a detailed amount of time to explain to me how it works. And it's the ability to just kind of, you know, this is the thing I learned working in the factory, that guys were always willing to be helpful if you didn't act like you knew everything.
Yeah.
You know, the guys who would come in, like new guys would come in on the scene, or people who acted like, you know, they were top shit and they knew everything there was to know. Forget them. They're not gonna get any help from nobody when the machine breaks or something goes wrong, because well, you know everything, man.
It's right.
So that's really been important. Yeah, it's been really important for me, like coming to the site and just being like, I will make sure you know that I know I'm an idiot and I don't know anything. Please help me. Please.
Yeah.
There's this great shot. You might have seen it on social media where I was using a plate compactor for the first time.
Like on this episode of Brandon does something poorly or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I put on there. And this I do something really badly. First, they let a guy who knows what he's doing do it a bunch of times back and forth. And then when they were sure that it was in a state that I could not damage it, they let me do a few passes. And I'm a lot taller than the guy who did it, so like the bar was not really adjusted for me or anything. And yeah, as soon as I get it in my hands, I'm like, it feels like it's getting away from me. And Javier, who was like the site manager, I was like, please help me. And his hope was just keep going.
Yeah, you got it.
Don't stop. Yeah, you got this. You're doing great.
Like I don't know where I'm going or what I'm doing.
I don't know. And I was like, this is. It looked like pushing a lawnmower. It was not.
Right.
It was like a thing that I felt was trying to run away from me.
Yeah.
It was wild, but that's what I love the most about the guys is that they are encouraging. I have not met, and I'm sure that there have been assholes because every crew has an asshole, sometimes more than one. So I don't want to like blow smoke up people and being like, oh, everyone's been. I'm sure I've met them, but they have not revealed themselves. Like I've not known that. Oh, this is the asshole of the crew.
Yeah, this is the guy.
This is the guy. This is the one. At my factory, we had 2 or 3. But what's been so great is that while I'm there meeting with the guys, the people I've worked with have been so open and to like letting me invade their workspace and be in their way where I could easily see a guy just being like, dude, get this idiot out of here. Like,
yeah.
Marvin, I'll be totally honest with you. The thing that scares me the most every time I'm out there is not honestly that I'm going to mess up the job because as a lot of people told me, like, we can fix it. Like, don't worry about it. Like, we can fix it if you mess something up. And I have, and they have fixed it after I messed it up. But the thing that actually scares me the most is that the guys doing the work will see me out there with a camera, see me trying to do a thing, and think like, what stunt is this for? Like, what, is he is this for for a joke? Is this for a joke? Like, and often because I look silly, I lean into the silliness. So I don't have any problem making fun of myself. And I use that sometimes. I use it as a way to like alleviate the tension or whatever. And I do want viewers to see it and get a chuckle out of it. But I'm always very concerned with like, I don't want any of the guys on this crew to think like, and I come into spaces where there's a lot of, these crews are staffed with a lot of people of color and minorities and I'm here, this white guy shows up on the crew, he's got a camera with him, and now he's wanting to like, shovel the asphalt and do this thing. Is this for a gag? Like, is this to look? And I try to be very communicative about like, I'm here because I do respect this work. I'm bad at it.
Yeah.
That's what's funny is that I'm bad at it. Not that the work is like beneath me or something. I'm actually here because I don't think it's beneath me.
Right.
I spent a decade and a half of my life doing pure labor work, like, and doing grunt level things and had to work my way up too. So it's like, I want to get down there and show that I do respect it, but I'm very cautious of it because it could easily be taken the wrong way. And I hope like anybody hearing this and they see the videos and like, hope like that's not ever my intention. But I think about that every time I step onto the job site, man.
Yeah, I think with you opening with, hey, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm very bad at it, you probably go ahead and alleviate any worries that you have right there. Because most of the guys are like, oh, now it makes sense. Yeah, they want to cover what we do because the general public can't do it and, or do it well for sure. So I think you did that great, opening with those ones. What's something that you look forward to, man? You've been around now for closing in on a year. You've seen kind of our industry, like we were talking earlier before we went on the air. This communication over video and through conversation is guys in our industry who I would have never thought adapt to it, have adapted really well to it. That excites me, right? That we're getting more tech interested, I guess, in our industry. But what excites you looking forward to it? Looking forward in our industry, what do you think?
I think one thing that excites me is seeing people get more aware about how the work impacts the communities that they do the work in. My favorite article that I got to write so far since I started is an article that I wrote in the striping issue of Pavement. So it was not the last issue, but 2 issues ago. I wrote an article called "The Invisible Work," which I interviewed a group of community people out in LA who call themselves the Crosswalk Collective. And what they do is they paint guerrilla crosswalks and street markings in the middle of the night without in this LA County without permits or without anything. And you should definitely go and check out the article. It's on fcp.com and it's in the magazine. And I was so excited to cover it for the striping issue. And at first I was nervous, and Jess was also nervous that, like, what are industry guys going to think about me covering a group of, like, just community activists doing striping without proper tools, without proper, permits and stuff like that. And in fact, all of the feedback I got on that story has been, like, incredibly positive. And the goal I had with that, and when you say, what do I really look forward to, is that I want to see people recognize, like, I'm excited to see the industry engage with the local community. We do the Good Neighbor Award through the Pavement Awards. I want to see, like, a real expansion of that. I'd love to have an Ignite panel, at our Ignite Summit and talk about, like, how can we get more engaged with the community, because the community is your lifeblood. And this is something that me and Captain Striper himself, we talked, because he won the Good Neighbor Award last year. Yep. We talked about this when I interviewed him, is that, like, the engagement with the community, it can take you so much farther than just being like, I'm going to blunt force business my way.
Yeah, sure.
to growing or getting better numbers, but, like, word of mouth and the community seeing that your business is engaged, like, not your building isn't just plopped in the city somewhere, but it's like, man, those guys, they are a part of this city. They're woven into the fabric of the city. And I want to see more of that. And I think that is something that anybody can do at any level of where their business is, whether they're a crew of 4 guys or 40 guys. That doesn't require capital investment. That doesn't require, the latest tech. It's a thing. It's a mindset. It's a thing that they can choose to do at any level. And I think that could have serious, powerful results.
To do something like that, especially, you can do it in any industry, with your business being any size and being even Chris here comments a lot about how we can do things more at Blacktop Banter to be more woven in our community here locally, but then also at large as well. And we do things at Wiscote where we donate to things, or we'll be there for certain events or these types of things to get woven in there. But in order for that, you have to get it. You have to get involved, right?
Gotta get involved.
What advice do you have for people who are just getting into the asphalt industry, right? Like you said, you came from here. There was nothing on this wall, and Brandon went boop and landed over here, and, like, now you're in the asphalt industry. Swim. What advice do you have for people?
I just had a vision of Scrooge McDuck, like, Scrooge McDuck and DuckTales, like,
diving
swimming.
Into his money.
Yeah. I just, when you said welcome to the asphalt industry, swim, I just saw, like, Scrooge McDuck level, like, jumping into the asphalt. That would not feel good.
No. And thankfully, you've learned that, right?
Right.
It's hot. It's hot.
It is hot. I did step on fresh mat my first day on a paving job, so that's
fun.
Yeah, that was cool. That was one of those first times where, like, it's okay, we can fix it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so stupid.
Hey, it's all right. We can walk all over it. They can fix it. Like, no.
No, that's not what I meant. Just stay off it, Brandon. But advice I'd give to people just getting in, is to stay humble. Like we were talking earlier, stay humble and be hungry. Stay humble, be hungry. Take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves, and don't put the cart before the horse. Is this other thing? another thing I'm really looking forward to is that when I've kind of feel I'm at a level in the industry, I don't know when this will be, if it's, I'm at 1 year, if it's at 2 years or 3 years, I don't know. Might be even longer. But when I feel like I reach a point when I can actually say things about the industry in a way that like I am actually digesting things I've experienced and now I'm offering insight. But that would be putting the cart. Oh, cat cameo in the background.
I've seen it.
That would be putting the cart before the horse.
Horse.
And I think that, I think that there's guys that are ambitious, right? They want to make money. They have a lot of energy, and they might want to like just jump out there and kind of bite off something that they're not really quite ready for. Stay humble, be hungry, take those opportunities, but be aware of like what you're ready for, because you could cost yourself a lot more if you get into a situation that you're not really ready for. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say like, hey, I don't know if I'm ready for this. I might have to walk away. And that takes a lot of self-awareness. So, all those things together, you don't want to, I don't want to say fuck up, but fucking up is part of learning. So we don't want to say like, don't fuck up. Like you're going to learn stuff by doing that, but be humble, be hungry. And, I think that you can go a long way with that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you learn. Thankfully, you can learn by observation in this industry a lot, and I think realizing, hey, if you ruffle a feather, chances are that feather is going to stay ruffled, right? So you gotta be delicate here.
So true. It's so true, Marvin.
You have to be delicate in the relationships within the industry, because even if you take a wrong step and make too large of an ask, or you sour it, more than likely that company or person is woven in somewhere else, and they're woven in somewhere else, and they're woven in somewhere else. So if you bust a strand, maybe in everywhere where it trickles down to too. So that is one thing I think that is a huge piece of advice and good for you to touch on, is that, man, be humble, don't bite off way too much, and don't ask way too much. Give, and then you receive. That's how it goes, right? Give.
That's
and then
really,
receive.
I like that. Be quicker to give than to be asking for stuff. It's a lot easier to fix a fresh mat you stepped in than to fix a relationship that you stepped in.
Oh, dude, way easier.
That takes a lot more, and even after you've said your apologies and things, it can still not be fully right. So I think that was a great point to bring up. It's very, very true.
Brandon, where can people find you online if they go to get curious about what Brandon is doing poorly today, if it's there, or if it's just what is Brandon doing most excellent today? Because you also do excellent things.
Yeah, so I'm a couple different places. The mosaic of my life is spread out in different places, but the asphalt related things definitely live on Pavement Magazine on Instagram and Asphalt Contractor on Instagram. And we're on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. We're on all the social medias, and I'm running those accounts.
Okay.
So I don't have a social media person who is designated. We do have social media people that work for the company, but the individual accounts, every editor is pretty much in charge of them. So the Asphalt and Pavement social media accounts, I'm running those. Sometimes I'll interact with my personal accounts and those accounts as if I'm not running them. But now you know the deep dark secret. I'm talking to myself.
Yep.
I'm responding to.
Wow, that's a great article, Brandon. Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Pavement Magazine. Thank you. I did it yesterday when I posted being at the hospital on the Pavement account. Yeah. And then I reposted it, and I was like, well, it's not so much of a thing. And I was like, I wonder how many people think, oh, must have a great social media person running that. I was like, no, I'm doing both things.
I enjoy following you on LinkedIn, where it's your personal LinkedIn page, right? Because you kind of get to post some stuff you're interested in, and then you repost the stuff from Pavement and Contractor.
Exactly. I put it all there. So you could definitely find me in doing that stuff. I think of it like social media ventriloquism, like when somebody's holding a Muppet or a puppet. We know that it's them, but we engage with the two things like they're real. So, it's social media ventriloquism is what I'm doing. Now, as far as there's other things that you can find me doing that are not asphalt related if you were at all curious. But I still am connected with the magazine that I started, Olney Magazine, OLNEY magazine.com. I am not so much involved with the day-to-day activities because obviously I do not have the time. But since I founded it and we have a team of volunteers that run it, that is still in operation and is still going strong.
Cool, man.
Yeah, the 5th issue of that magazine just came out last month, and they're doing great stuff over there. And if you are interested in writing creatively, that's a platform for that. Like we publish things online, we publish things in print, and that's a really cool opportunity. Again, if that strikes your fancy. And believe it or not, Marvin, I have a 3rd book being published in September that is going to be coming out. I have a launch. If you live in Ohio, you can come meet me at the Modern Methods Brewery in downtown Warren.
If we don't live in Ohio, can we still come?
You could still come. You could come to the Modern Methods Brewery in downtown Warren in Dave Grohl Alley. And I'll be having my book signing and launch for my new book. It's called A Future We Remember. And I'll have copies for sale there that I will autograph for you.
Can you give us a brief
for no extra charge?
Can you give us a brief description of it?
So A Future We Remember is a book that I really wrote in dealing with, I spent most of my life dreaming about being a dad, and having a family. And I'm 37, and I'm already on the way out. My oldest daughter is 15; she'll be turning 16, and my youngest daughter is she'll be turning 10 next year. And I joke with my wife, we're already on the way out. We're already on the way out, and I'm not yet 40. And I hadn't really spent any of my life thinking about what this phase would be. And so the book is really about my daughters, and it's kind of a way of me processing that I'm seeing a next phase of my life coming, and I actually hadn't given that one any thought. I had given lots of thought to being a husband and being a father, and now I'm on the verge of transitioning into this other phase, and it's oh shit, what do I do with this phase? I don't even... So in A Future We Remember is kind of a nod. That title is kind of a nod to this idea that we all have ideas about what the future will be like, and literally no one has ever reached a one-for-one exact version of that future they anticipated. You might have elements of it. Mm-hmm. So we end up remembering futures. We remember a future that we anticipated that never happened. Cool. And that can sometimes haunt us. It can sometimes haunt us in ways, right? You're well, it's not really what I thought I would be. Yeah, it's its own ghost stories. You're haunting yourself. You're haunting yourself. That's what the book is. It's kind of the theme of the book, and it will be for sale later this year. I don't have a link, or it's not open for pre-orders yet, or I'd give you a link, but soon those things will be up.
Well, when it does pop out, let us know, and hopefully we can make that round, and one of us at least be there, if not both of us. And then, of course, we'll post it up here with what we're doing too.
Hell yeah, man! And we can get some beers at the brewery too. That would be awesome.
Oh, for sure. There will be a lot of good stories come out after that one.
Yes, sir.
Cool, man. Well, congratulations on the book. Thanks again for joining us today and for your great view that you've had with a year in the asphalt industry and being able to be woven in yourself, man. For myself here and Chris in the studio at Blacktop Banter, and for Brandon Noel, editor at Asphalt Contractor and Pavement Maintenance and Reconstruction magazine, this is Blacktop Banter, where we speak asphalt. Peace. We've had our 800 networked phone number on the side of our trucks and equipment for a while now. And having branding power over your competition who has a complicated phone number versus 1-800-ASPHALT or 1-800-BLACKTOP makes it easy for people to remember, and all the calls go directly to you. Plus, when you join the 800 Pavement Network, you're joining over 300 pavement contractors who have generated over $2 billion in combined total sales. You can call 1-800-PAVEMENT, or you can go to the website 1-800-PAVEMENT.com and you'll find them. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that I've been using Stencil Plus for years. They have everything I need for line striping jobs, from multi-piece stencils, stencils with different thicknesses, stencils for the big box stores, custom stencils, and they have free shipping on all orders within the U.S. Plus, For a limited time, friends of this podcast can save an additional 10% on all orders at Stencil Plus. Just use code BB10. That's BB10, as in Blacktop Banter, at stencilplus.com. From spray tips, pour pots, street brooms and handles, flagging tape, chalk lines, and more, Liberty Supply is a one-stop shop for all your asphalt tool and equipment supply needs. They've been an invaluable resource for us, and owners Sam and Mike are great guys. They're ready to help you with anything you need. What more could you ask for? Visit their website at libertysupply.biz or call 800-397-9907 and tell them Marvin sent you.